Welcome to the 9th episode of Mattowarrior's Metal Madness. And on today's episode, I don't have an interview, but I will be discussing a new movie that is making its rounds on Netflix. However, as has been a tradition in the beginning of this podcast, I will go into the metal news first. So I'm visiting blabbermouth.net. Let's see what Bori has for us in store today. Watch former Metallica bassist Jason Newsted and the Chop House Band perform a charity event in Jupiter. On Jupiter, wow, that's awesome. He had a spacecraft. Maybe Voivod made it. But I guess it's a benefit for some kind of music school. That's pretty cool. The Darkness singer reacts to Puddle of Mud's viral cover of About a Girl, which is a Nirvana song, if you don't know. Is it wrong to laugh at this? No, it's not wrong to laugh at anything. That's my answer to that. Let's see. Shinedown. Nah. I couldn't care less. No, Shinedown Zach Myers couldn't care less about not being nominated for a Grammy. Sounds very defensive. I do not consider Shinedown anything that is in my radar orbit, so I'm not speaking of Jupiter, but I'm not a big fan of Shinedown. I am not down with Shinedown. Sorry to say, for people that are fans of them. That's perfectly your prerogative if you like Shinedown. New Alter Bridge album should come out in September. Okay. Trivium will focus on touring before beginning work on another album. Just note, I haven't really liked any Trivium since, what was that album? Shogun. That's right. I'm just saying that I just haven't liked it. I'm sorry. You know, if I ever interview the band, I haven't really, granted I haven't listened to a lot since Shogun, but it's frustrating. Mark Storis is hopeful Crocus will perform again. Okay. It'd be kind of cool. It reminds me of this parody lyric my friend came up with. But anyways, I won't be doing that right here. Ozzy Osbourne reportedly applies for rehab weighing at UK mansion. Oh, wow. Okay. Queensryche. Okay, I always like Queensryche drama. I live for Queensryche drama, by the way. As anybody that's followed anything I've done with my former blog or this podcast, or if is a follower on my social media, knows I live for Queensryche drama. So Queensryche's Michael Wilton and Eddie Jackson fire back at Scott Rockenfield, accused drummer of abandoning the band. Wow. That sucks, because Scott Rockenfield is one of the best drummers in metal history. Queensryche is very deceptively complex, I would say, because some of the stuff he does is quite advanced for, even the early stuff like the EP and the Warning in particular. So I mean, he's one of the first guys to do like some of those odd timings and stuff. And they put a lot of progressive stuff in their music in a way that doesn't really show it off, but you have to really like understand like, oh, wow, they're doing that timing? I didn't even realize it until I actually was like listening closely. Awesome drummer. Unfortunately, he's not in the band. I wish they would just reunite with Chris DeCarmo and everybody. But anyways, Motley Crue has its own coffee brand. So everybody has its own coffee brand now. It's just like, do any of these bands actually like are they connoisseurs of coffee? Like Jeff Tate is a connoisseur of wine. Like, it actually makes sense for him to have his own Insania wine because he's obsessed with wine. Is there any coffee maniacs in these bands? Like, Devin Townsend did a whole album about coffee, so why doesn't he have a coffee yet? Anyways. Okay, John 5 and the Creatures postponed 3 shows after positive COVID-19 test. I just got a question, like, and it's not getting political or anything, but if this just continues on and on, where you have to cancel shows if you have a positive test, is that just going to go on forever? Just a question, just a rhetorical question. Like, are bands always going to cancel if they're positive? And within threshold of what constitutes positive and all that controversy too. Anyways, enough about that. Former Metallica bassist Newsted record a debut album. It's about time with Chop House Band. About time he comes up with another album. KK Downing, Motorhead was responsible for the creation of thrash and speed metal. Well, I think the New York band Riot were definitely forerunners of that as well. There were many other bands that were doing faster stuff. Motorhead were definitely very important, though. So he's partially right. Lamb of God's John Campbell to mix next couple of shows. Phil Demmel to step in, take care of a family matter. Okay. And then I guess someone else is missing from that because of what I was talking about before with John 5. Like I said, Dream Theater's 2002 performance of Iron Maiden's The Number of the Beast album to be made available on streaming services. I do like that. I think it was pretty cool. I think it's cool when bands cover whole albums. As long as they have enough original material of their own, they could get away with that. Like Fish does they do Dark Side of the Moon or something. Which actually I'm interested. It sounds really strange, but I'm kind of interested in the band Fish and like exploring more of their discography. Dream Theater, yeah, it's pretty cool. I've seen that before. I've seen like videos of the whole thing and stuff. Megadeth's Kiko Loureiro, I don't know how to pronounce this, shares video from rehearsal sessions for 2022. Okay, whatever. I'm just not interested. It's just not that interesting to me. Great guitarist though. But here we go. Here's some kind of edgier stuff here. Metallica's James Newsted. Make any sense? James Newsted. Hybrid of James Hetfield, Jason Newsted. They got cloned in a lab and put together, or like in The Fly, one of those Fly movies from the remakes from the 80s where they fuse the two creatures together. That's what happened. No, the Cronenberg ones. I mean, or the Cronenberg one, because I think he just did the first one. Anyways, Metallica's James Hetfield is still fuming over load and reload artwork, says cover artist. That's pretty funny. I mean, whatever, you know. He's complicit in that. He's complicit in that whole period of time, you know. Hey man, like we got to stop playing like all these like complicated songs because the kids like the groove and I think it's more Kirk Hammett what he would have said. We got, you know, or maybe Lars, like, oh well, the 90s are here. We can't sing about those subjects. We have to sing about personal subjects or like maybe politics once in a while and like personal subjects and about how my heroin addiction is causing me to be depressed today and I'm gonna do a whole album about it. Like Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains are great, by the way, but you know, I hate a lot of the things about the 90s still. It just that makes me. I'm still fuming over the 90s. I'm with James in a way because we're both fuming over the 90s. Dave Lombardo says early Slayer years were fun times. I bet they were. Sepultura drummer Eloy Casagrande diagnosed with kidney infection. Ooh, that's fucked up. I know somebody that has problems with that. Metallica's Kirk Hammett was pretty shocked that people thought he ripped off Iron Maiden in one of those songs on his new EP. No, that's not what the headline says, but there is a song that he released that sounded a little like To Tame a Land, though. But anyways, he was pretty shocked to get Rest of the Band's blessings to release solo EP, which isn't bad. I haven't listened to the whole thing. Mike Shindoa and Linkin Park. I'm not going to talk about Linkin Park. Saliva, no. Pearl Jam, I've talked about Pearl Jam already. Oh, God. So cringe. The Space Station. Oh, wow. Whatever. Lamb of God performed without singer Randy Blythe and bassist John Campbell. That's messed up. Whatever. Here are walk-in directions to graves of Pantera's Legends Dimebag and Infinity Paul. Okay. Rage Against the Machine, no. Udo Dirk Schneider, why decided this is more interesting to me. Why I decided to record a song in German for the first time. Well, it's kind of funny because like Tom Angel Ripper has recorded dozens of songs in German. I believe the Scorpions were one of the first bands to do that. They went by a different name in the mid-'70s and did two Sweet songs. Look it up. It seriously happened. I think they were called Action, or maybe that was the song by Sweet. It was pretty cool. Soundgarden, Super Unknown, 6 times platinum. Wow, that's cool that the people are still buying albums like that. That's a great album, by the way. Breaking in a sequence, not interested. There's nothing that is to my taste. Sorry, it's just not my thing. System of Down's Shavo Odagian celebrates Armenian History Month by talking about his path to success. That's interesting. Lamb of God recruits fit for an autopsy. I just think that's funny. Fit for an autopsy. Oh, they're getting different kinds of vocalists. Okay. Jason Newsted, Blast journalist who published his comments about proposed Van Halen tribute tour. Okay. Well, maybe he should have signed a NDA for that, and not talked about it. I don't know. I mean, so what this is referenced to is this proposed Van Halen sort of reunion / tribute for Eddie Van Halen thing with Jason Newsted on bass, which to me doesn't really, other than the name, doesn't really. I mean, he could do it. I'm sure it's not like, but I just don't see like him being like the best like person to recruit, really. I don't know why they said him. I think there's one person that they could recruit and they can call, Alex Van Halen, and if he does it with Joe Satriani or Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth, who's kind of give mixed messages in the press about this idea. There's one person he can call. His name is it rhymes with psych, and he actually he likes Jack Daniels. His name is Michael Anthony. Why don't they get Michael Anthony? Fuckers. Anyways, they should get Michael Anthony. Best backing vocals ever. So William Duvall is sure Alice in Chains will be working on new music later this year. Paul Stanley is auctioning his 2022 Chevy Corvette Stingray convertible. Oh, I really want that. Not really. No, not at all. Venom Incorporated release There's Only Black album in September. Suicide Silence. Okay. Mark Tremonti, Black Label Society. Poison's Ricky Rocket. Oh, anything with Ricky Rocket. I'll read that because that's interesting character. Some of these bands I talk about, I do like. Don't get me wrong, but they just don't seem like super interesting to talk about, like the article or that's on here. If that makes any sense. Even I might sound really glib and fucking smug and like trying to like not talk about it, but it's some of the headlines. Oh, releases an EP. Okay, it wasn't whatever. I might even like the band. But I'm just like, it's just not exciting and like scandalous enough to talk about. I don't know. Not interested enough. So Poison's Ricky Rocket sides with Mike Tyson for allegedly punching aggressive plane passenger. It's kind of funny. A lot of shit on planes nowadays. A lot of stuff going on. Last even 6-7 years, even before the thing happened the last 2 years. There was a lot of stuff with planes too, but there was stuff before, like that guy was screaming, being taken off the plane. Kirk Hammett, speaking of that, not planes, but Michael Sweet, Joel Hoekstra, Marco Mendoza, and Tommy Aldridge joined forces in another Frontiers Records supergroup called Iconic. Cynthia Plastercaster Albrighton, artist and recovering groupie, dies at 74. Now that is sad. That's a sad moment in our history because plaster casting, that was a classic 60s and 70s groupie thing. So not that it would be my thing because I'm not into that appendage myself, but all the power to you if you are, and especially if you want to collect plaster casts of them. Arch Enemy to release Sunset Over the Empire single. I haven't heard Arch Enemy in years. And this is going to be my last news item, unless there's something interesting. Yeah, there's one more that I'm going to go over because I think it's funny. Let's see. Now, this is just a personal taste thing and a personal kind of like the thing that I'm on, the current thing I'm into. And that is... I'm going to read the headline first, and I'll talk about it a little bit because it's just the music is taken over my life. This man's vocals and his music, And it sounds a little hyperbolic, but if you listen to his music with this other band that he was in, that he quit, or whatever happened with him, then you will understand. But how Skid Row's new singer went from covering 18 in Life on Swedish Idol to fronting the band. It's like a Hollywood script. And that is pretty true. He did this in 2009. He was on the Swedish Idol, which is probably was... I'm willing to bet those Idol shows are all related to the same company and stuff. American Idol. And he did 18 in Life. And he joined the band Heat, H-E-A-T. And that it went from there. He did 4 albums. He was in there like 11 years. And I started listening to Heat last year in November. I see what happened was Blabbermouth themselves gave this Eclipse album a bunch of a good review, and I'm really into AOR and stuff like that, hard rock and stuff, and modern rock, melodic rock. So I read about them, but I saw this. I'll just say he's an infamous YouTuber. And sometimes he puts a lot of songs in his end titles on videos, and it was a Heat song that was because I was trying to listen to more bands, and I read about them. I think by hearing about Eclipse or whatever. Which I didn't actually like that album, that newest album. So I was a little honestly, I just wasn't as into that. So I heard the song at the end of this video, and then I was like, what is that? What the hell is that? It was just like the voice was something it really stirred something in my soul. It sounds really preposterous. But I was like, okay, I'm going to check out this band. I listened to their newest album, Heat 2, which came out in 2020. I wish I had heard it in 2020 because I would have probably had a better year. I think if in an alternate dimension, everything's normal, 2020, 2021, and now, because I had heard that Heat album, it's like the butterfly effect. If I would have heard it back in February of 2020 when it was released, it would have been like, oh, everything's fine. Everything in my life would have been different too. But no, it didn't happen that way. I heard it in November of 2021, and it was. I've bought all their albums. I listen to them constantly. I think that they're one of the best bands out there, even with their old singer, his return. But Eric Ronwell is someone special too. Bought the New Horizon album. He does all these covers on YouTube. Black Sabbath with Tony Martin stuff and Dio and like even Creedence Clearwater Revival, but he's joined Skid Row now. So he's one of my favorite modern singers. Favorite modern bands is Heat. That's I really can't even explain it more. It's just like something happened when I heard that band. There's something special. They have a special way of writing songs. Like it's something that I haven't heard in decades. I think just the way they should be like top 10 in every country. I would say if it was the 80s, they would be like headlining above Bon Jovi, Wayne Warrants, whoever, even Skid Row. I mean, they are one of the best bands out there because a lot of their albums have no filler. You listen to a lot of these, even these like classic hair metal albums from the 80s, it's like, oh, that song kind of sucks, or I'll skip over that one. Like that last Heat album was like, I listen to it constantly. It's just one of the best albums. And even like Address the Nation, which was the first one Gronwell was on, all the songs are good. Not Point of No Return, what is it called? Tearing Down the Walls is great. Even the one that people hate, which was Into the Great Unknown, I thought that was great. It was a little different. There's some like some modern electronic kind of Muse, or what's that other band that Jared Leto's in? Like people compared it to that, but I don't know. It's a little different, but it was still good. So there's one more news item I want to go over, and that is James Labrie says Dream Theater's Grammy means Recording Academy is recognizing and acknowledging this type of music. Well, the thing about this with their Grammy is that this is going to sound a little harsh, but it seems like they'll acknowledge bands years later. Like Megadeth, they gave on these random albums. Like they gave a Grammy to Judas Priest for like this live album that nobody like talked about, and like on Megadeth, I think on Endgame or something like that, and it's just like it's a little weird how the Grammys work with that. It's like why? It's like oh well, I don't know. I don't understand it. I say fuck the Grammys, fuck the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, any kind of award show. I think it's all shit. By the way, so it's fun to watch sometimes. You know, back in the day of watching like Guns N' Roses on the American Music Awards and stuff like that, that was entertaining when they would try to get away with swearing on national TV and they were all drunk and wasted. And they just like you were afraid that they were going to do something crazy, and they did, kind of. That was cool. Or when they smashed, when bands smashed stuff on stage, or even like that. Even I don't like Poison, but like the Poison performance that was all like weird and stuff, like just like weird stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff, that's fun to watch award shows. Honestly, the best, even though I'm not a fan of MTV, I wasn't even a fan of MTV back in the day that much, but the MTV Music Awards, always been far more entertaining than the Grammys to me. Just something about like the MTV Music Awards, the performances and the artists, like Andrew Dice Clay getting did he get kicked off of there or something? I don't remember, but just like all the crazy stuff that happened over the years. I was even watching one from the 80s, that I'd never seen before, and it had all these it was neat, So or even the MTV Movie Awards, which one of my friends actually went to years ago, which is funny. Even that is like more to me. Those award shows suck, but those MTV ones had there was a little bit of an edge to them. I'll just say that, back in the day at least. So that's about all for the news section of this. So I'm going to talk about the next segment is going to be about the movie Metal Lords, which is on Netflix, and I'm just going to go into, if people don't know what that's about, it's about these kids in high school that they're trying to form this kid's trying to form a metal band, and it's a Skullfucker, I think it's called. Okay, warning, there's going to be a couple of spoilers here, but I'm going to go over these notes that I wrote about it. So of course it's like a safe corporate kind of movie because it's Netflix. They're not going to do something super edgy and super crazy, of course. They're not going to do River's Edge Part 2 or something like that, or even like Deathgasm or something like that, necessarily, So one of the first things I noticed, I'm just going to go into, we'll go over the good things first. Well, the kid likes a lot of good bands. Okay, the kids in the movie. They talk about, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Metallica, thrash bands, all this stuff. Even talk about, there's a little bit of reference to black metal, sort of. There's some references to some good stuff, It's not like you're watching, like one of the problems with some of these metal movies is like from the 80s especially, like Trick or Treat. Okay, Fastway's a good band, right? But for the character in Trick or Treat, why would you choose Fastway to do the soundtrack? Wouldn't you choose something a little edgier? Maybe not thrash, but at least Wasp level, It's like, especially for like this demonic character in the band. In, the band, well, it wasn't Black Roses. Black Roses is even worse with the band that was in there. Full on hair metal is King Cobra. It was a great band. I love King Cobra, and I love Marcy Free, but having that as the band in the movie, even Lizzie Borden, they should have just had Lizzie Borden as the band Black Roses. That would have fit a lot more. Lizzie Borden is in the movie Black Roses. But anyways, that's a rant about two different movies that are not even they are related to this tangentially, or they're adjacent to this movie because they are about metal bands, in a fictional sense or whatever. But that was, there's a lot of good things, and there's some tropes that I do like in the movie that they bring back for this movie, and maybe it's in Cobra Kai and Stranger Things and stuff like that. It's kind of familiar, or even School of Rock, but it's kind of fun. There's some good stuff, like the jock trope, this like bully jock trope that is in the movie. I kind of like it. I kind of like the car chase scene. And I also like a lot of the stuff. I just like. I like that it's not as. What am I trying to think? What am I trying to say? I expected worse with how they wanted to frame the friendships and what it's like being in high school now and stuff. I thought they would try to not censor, but try to make it really safe and, dare I say, PC. Sorry to say that, but it could have been worse with that. I'm just saying, there's. I'll just give you an example. I'm not trying to talk about politics in this show, but it's for example, Netflix themselves has this policy where you cannot stare at someone on set. You can't look you can't make eye contact after a certain amount of seconds. And this has nothing. It's not like I endorse people staring at people or men staring at women or something like that. But in this movie, one of his crushes, he stares at her because he's drunk. He stares at her, and they just show it as kind of this funny thing, and then. Well, I don't know. It's kind of funny. So I don't know. You just have to watch it. I don't know. It's just kind of weird that they, I read this thing once that it's corporate policy for harassment or whatever, not to stare at someone for more than a few seconds or make eye contact in Netflix. I read this years ago. So it's just kind of funny because there's stuff like that. There's it's like dating, it just seems like a normal 80s or 90s movie about dating, with, just a, and I don't know, it just seems like it's realistic. It's not I would expect a lot of people, on the anti-PC, whatever you want to call them, would think, oh, it's going to be all woke, this movie, blah, 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 it's Netflix. And it really is just kind of real. It's just kind of real life. They actually tried to do something that's realistic to real life right now, in my opinion. Just my opinion. There's drugs in it. That's another example. There's sex in it. It's not like they're trying to gloss over real life like it seems like a lot of people might want to do or are accused of doing in some of the stuff. So, accused of. I'm not saying they are. Now, the main kid, I don't know if the drummer, I think the drummer is supposed to be the protagonist, and the guitarist, singer guy, I forgot his name. I guess he's supposed to be the protagonist, but he's really sort of is, but he's sort of not. It's sort of the story of both. He's kind of a rich kid, the guitarist, singer guy, and man, some of the equipment he had, I'm just that's unrealistic as hell. Why would he be playing all that stuff? Why would he have that much stuff? I guess he charged it on his father's a plastic surgeon, and he charges it on spoiler alert. He charges it on his credit card, his American Express, and I don't know. It's just it's really strange how that works. Why wouldn't you be notified that your kid is charging $13,000 on your card of all this music stuff from Guitar Center? Guitar Center is featured prominently in the movie, of course, because of corporate sponsorship. Like I said, it's a safe corporate movie. So yeah, so those are some of the good things. It's not terrible, and it has kind of a familiar arc to it that is kind of comfortable, So I'm gonna get to some of the bad stuff now, though. Okay, so one of the first things I'll just these are some nitpicks about it. The kid, the guitarist singer guy, he wears nail polish, which for the style of metal that he plays doesn't necessarily make sense. So some personal stuff from a musician standpoint is that there's a point in the movie where I have it right here, actually. I have some of the equipment that he owns, actually. It's kind of funny. Behringer V-amp, which is a virtual guitar amp, like a modeling preamp. He's playing through that, but he's also playing through the Marshall at the same time and all these pedals. There would be no reason to do that it doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know what his setup is supposed to be. Because, I mean, obviously he has a tuner on his pedal board. It just didn't make sense. That part of it just, and they audition this bass player, and then the bass player doesn't, For Whom the Bell Tolls, they play For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica. And there's a bass part that's played perfectly in the beginning, but we're supposed to believe that it's on guitar, but it's actually on bass. It's always been on bass, that part. A lot of that part. Like, you hear it clearly in the song on this performance in this movie. So that was kind of done badly. A rock band plays a party, which does happen. I'm sure high schools have rock bands that play, but more than likely nowadays it would be a DJ. So it's kind of an anachronism in there. So another thing that kind of bothered me about the movie is that they're talking up like they're going to be this famous band. And like, the best you can hope for in an actual metal band nowadays, you're not going to ever be Metallica. You're not going to be Iron Maiden. You could play some European festivals and some festivals in the United States. You're never going to be more like a club or theater band. And your high school is not going to give a shit that much. You know, like, he's like, we're going to be the pride of the high school. It's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, with a metal band that's called Skullfucker, it makes no sense at all. So I was just like, that was kind of unrealistic. Let's see. All right, I'm going over some of my notes here. Yeah, I called it Ghost. I said, Whom the Bell Tolls, Ghost Bass. The character of the cellist girl or whatever that is the love interest of the drummer. Spoiler alert. I think she was written kind of badly as this, like, Generation Z, like, mental health is, we have to talk about, it's sort of woke-ish. Like, we have to talk about mental health and our medications and all this stuff. Like, it's almost like this cliche, like, what's that movie called? There's a bunch of movies about it. Like, we have to have this cliche, and, like, I don't know. It's like, I mean, it was kind of silly having her, like, and she was able to be, like, really toxic, quote unquote, and get away with it. But the main character, he was portrayed as kind of a, I mean, okay, so I'll give it this. It did not portray the guitarist singer character as he was, quote unquote, toxic, whatever. But at times, okay, but he learned his lesson, of course. But she never did, she was never held accountable for what she did, like, as far as, like, attacking her teacher, giving a little bit, or screaming, throwing stuff. I don't know. She just didn't take her medication. It was just kind of silly. Like, that was kind of dumb. The way that they filmed it and stuff, it was kind of silly. Now, one of the parts that probably would be considered woke that I did, quote unquote, that I did like was the part where the guy uses the word gay, because it was filmed very well. So the main character, I'll just call him the guitarist guy. Okay, I forgot the names of the characters. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at that unless I look at the credits and, like, watch a movie a couple times. This is one viewing of this movie earlier today. So he uses the word gay, and then, like, he's Grinder is by Judas Priest is playing in the background. And then they, like, show, like, the crotch of some musicians and stuff. I thought it was awesome. I thought that part was really funny, because you can do it in a way that's, like, bad and, like, hits you over the head, or you can do it, like, in a funny part like that. That was cool. That was kind of cool. So I don't know. And, the romance, quote unquote, between the two, the drummer and the bass player. She's not a bass player. She's a cellist, but she fills the role of the bass, I guess. The virginity subject in the movie was kind of brought up in this really weird way. Okay, all of a sudden she wants to lose her virginity with him, and then they have a romance. It just didn't. The chemistry wasn't there. It just was, like, sort of there, but I don't know. It was weird. And one of the things, another thing that bothered me is that they keep talking about metal's truth to power. Like, okay, that's got to be Tom Morello's involvement in this movie. It speaks truth to power. Yeah, right. Okay, Netflix, a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation, speaks truth to power. Sure. I was laughing at my ass off at that stupid part. They did mention Eric Clapton without getting political about it, though. That was kind of cool. And, overall, like a relationship, this happened in one of my bands, like if there's if hetero, cisgendered, whatever you want to call it, normative, not normal. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say normal. Heteronormative kind of idea, with male and female in a band. That does happen all the time. They develop relationships. Gone on for since Jefferson Airplane, or before that probably. So that was plausible. There's some, as far as more woke stuff, I wrote some notes. There's some stuff in the background, some posters and stuff. Like some people on the more a different end of whatever might get offended by some of the other stuff I won't even mention. It was a lot like School of Rock at times. Someone else mentioned that, like I was watching a video about it. Let's see. The blonde, the girl that he has a crush on, the drummer in the beginning. I like the drummer. The drummer's performance. The kid that played the nerdy drummer. I thought he did a really good job. His chemistry with his, the cellist girlfriend, could have been better. And then there's like this, they talk about. There's even mention of groupies and stuff, like for some other music. I forgot some modern musician, like, oh, my cousin slept with him or something. Like that, to actually mention that in a movie like this was pretty interesting, because that's supposed to be, some of that stuff's supposed to be like kind of verboten nowadays, talking about like how that happens and stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. Recycled. Okay, I wrote down recycled 80s trope of homely girl. She wasn't homely by any means, especially at the end when she wore all the makeup. I'm talking about the cellist, and almost cheating with hotter girl nerd boy. That happened a lot. Like what was the movie? The Heavenly Kid. That happened with him. There was like this like less, quote unquote, less attractive girl that liked him the whole movie, and he wanted the popular girl. But as he was about to cheat on, or not cheat, but go with that other girl, something happens, and he gets with the more, quote unquote, homely girl in the end. That trope happened in this movie, kind of. It's kind of cool to see some of these tropes recycled in a way. It's just like, I didn't expect to see this ever again after what is going on in our society and stuff. It's kind of cool to see these tropes like in a way. Like some of them are bad and dumb, but like it's like kind of warms the heart with nostalgia to see that even in a non-nostalgic movie like this, which is supposed to take place in modern time, obviously, cell phones and texting and all that shit, and apps and shit. So it was kind of cool seeing that. So let's see, the worst scene. I thought okay. So I thought the plastic surgeon dad, was funny. There was another scene that I didn't like. I'm thinking about that. Oh yeah. So as these legendary metal bands, the drummer and the cellist were supposed to learn. They mentioned Rage Against the Machine and Slipknot, and I'm like, no, that's not realistic with what this kid is into. Otherwise, it didn't make a lot of sense. Maybe Slipknot, but that's a stretch. So I thought that was kind of dumb how they handled that. But of course, Tom Morello was involved intimately in the movie, so you had to put Rage Against the Machine in there. So let's see. I'm just going over my notes. Well, they called themselves post-doom death metal, or some kind of arbitrary name, which didn't really make sense. It sounded like traditional metal with growly vocals. It wasn't death metal by any means. So there's a scene with this girl. Okay, the girl in the hot tub, this blonde girl that he was staring at in the beginning of the movie, the drummer kid, and he goes. She's like inviting him to make out and stuff, and he. Okay, so what happens? This is a spoiler alert. Okay, now again. So Scott Ian of Anthrax, Tom Morello, and Kirk Hammett and Rob Halford and maybe someone else show up to like give different sides of whether or not he should like have sex with this other girl. And it's just kind of cringe. I mean, I thought it was okay. Kirk Hammett comes out and says, back in the day, we all got up to stuff. I wrote down the quote. And it's true though. They all got they did back in the day. They did get up all got up to stuff. So it was not a terrible scene, but it was just kind of like this is kind of over the top. Some of the jokes were bad and didn't land, and some of the jokes did. And that one was kind of a mixed bag on that one. So my favorite part of the movie, my favorite character in the movie was this guy that was in this band who went to the same high school in the 90s, who was in a band, this obviously a fictional band, called Kiloton. There was this legendary death metal band in the 90s that got super famous. Of course, death metal, or I don't know what kind of metal they were. I think they were supposed to be death metal. And the thing is, 1996 is when they were formed or something, and that didn't really make sense with a lot of what it was happening at the time in America with metal. I don't think there would be a death metal band formed in the United States in 1996 that really went anywhere, honestly, at the time. Could have happened, but it just was very unrealistic and kind of an anachronism in the movie. So, but the shrink, the Kiloton guy shows up later because he's like, the kid worships him, the guitarist singer guy. He worships this guy, and he shows up later as like, because his dad sends him to this rehab place, even though he's not on drugs or alcohol. But like he thinks like he should be like shaping up at a rehab facility anyways. And then the Kiloton guy is the shrink that like does his intro or like his entrance interview. And that guy, that's the best character in the movie, the funniest character. And of course, he inevitably helps him escape with his I'm not going to go into the other subplot of this other band and stuff, this drummer that was on drugs or whatever. And I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. So I thought that character was cool and hilarious, but the actor, I forgot his name. He's a famous actor. Best character in the movie. So let's see what else. It's kind of a predictable like ending. Predictable like, kind of VH1 fiction. When they used to have VH1 like fictional movies and Netflix movies, it's kind of a predictable kind of ending. It didn't stand out like it could. But it didn't. But it wasn't annoying. Like I expected it to be a lot worse. Like I expected it to be just total shit, but it wasn't. Like I had low expectations because I just know a lot of these movies, they don't get shit right. They don't, and obviously the equipment stuff was very lacking where he was playing through a V-amp, like I said. There was parts that it didn't make sense and just weren't the best. And, would I recommend this over Trick or Treat? Hell no. Trick or Treat is one of the best metal movies ever made. Would I recommend it over Black Roses? Yes, absolutely. But Black Roses is still fun to watch. Would I recommend it over Deathgasm or Heavy Trip? I've never seen Heavy Trip. Definitely not over Deathgasm. The one bad thing that was off in Deathgasm was it didn't make sense that the dude liked Trivium. Not that I don't like Trivium. I'm just an older metalhead that likes a lot of different kinds of stuff. But if it was like this black metal purist guy, I don't think he would like Trivium. That was a part of Deathgasm that wasn't consistent. But Deathgasm was a better movie. It recalled Deathgasm in several ways, even though it wasn't a horror movie. But one of the things I liked about it, though, I forgot to mention the RPG scene, the obligatory RPG scene that's becoming pretty common in metal movies or even like just kids movies on Netflix. Like they have to be playing an RPG at some point, tabletop RPG. And as someone that plays a tabletop RPG every week, I could say that, and as a metalhead, I could say that's not how we play, but it is it's what it is. I think it's pretty funny, but yeah, I think it was an okay movie. It wasn't bad. It at times so other times made me cringe, of course, as expected. It could have been better, if I wrote it. If I actually had a crack at it, I probably would have done a better job. If obviously it's made by committee more than likely. I don't know. I didn't read a lot about it, so I think it actually is more genuine than a lot of these movies that were made, and the makers were trying to go for that. I don't think it probably wasn't made by committee, but it was not a bad movie. I wouldn't watch it again because it wasn't good enough for that. I'd probably watch Deathgasm again. And I should see Heavy Trip because I haven't seen it. But overall, I'd give it like maybe 2.5 or 3 stars out of 5. It wasn't as bad as this movie, Metal Lords. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It had a lot of cringe moments, of course. It had a lot of modern movie moments, and then coupled with like cliched old movie moments like that. See, that was the part that surprised me, was that it was so like standard stuff, like just like it was a surprise because I don't know. A lot of propaganda out there about various things. They say, oh, they're taking over Hollywood, the woke crowd, and it's like, well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they're full of shit some of the time, these people that talk like that, because this was not like that. The one thing that bothered me was the cellist character. Like it's like, okay, maybe it didn't bother. See, it would have bothered me more if she would have been like praised for her like being unbalanced and being a little violent. If the guitarist singer kid would have like been, well, they were kind of teetering the edge towards showing him as kind of a douchebag asshole and her as like a hero, because she was like, oh, she's crazy and does all this crazy stuff, but she's a female hero with mental health problems, and he's just this crazy boy that's doing all this stuff. It was very close to that at times, which did bother me, I'll just say. But at the end, it's like this obsession with mental illness and like stigma and stuff, and I understand all that. It's like this Generation Z thing. They get, we got to get her. She's crazy. She's got to be in the band. Okay, so she's metal as fuck. Okay, so there's this thing. All right, so I'm a hypocrite about that because I talk about all the time. I want more crazy people on stage, and doing crazy stuff in shows. So I'm not going to criticize that much. So, but yeah, there was a little bit of that. I mean, the way I don't know, but there were some funny characters. See, the thing is the parents. The older characters were probably funnier than the kids a lot of the time, like the plastic surgeon dad and the kiloton guy. They were funny. They were the funniest characters in the movie. Unfortunately, the kids could have been a lot funnier. They should have made the kids funnier than they were. And the guitarist singer guy was kind of a dick. He's kind of a douchebag, and he learned his lesson at the end of the movie to share with others. And it's kind of cliched, but whatever. So, like I said, 2.5 stars out of 5. It wasn't terrible. I thought I would give it 1 or 2, but it had some good stuff in it. It could have been a lot better. It could have been, but I don't know how much it could have been better with a movie like with that kind of plot. I think metal movies. The metal movie I want to make is like Black Roses, but like really messed up, like worse than Deathgasm and Black Roses. Not a comedy, like really dark and like creepy and sinister. Like a band does try to take over like society in a town, and almost like Halloween, Season of the Witch, was that Halloween 3, meets Black Roses but more serious. Meets Black Roses and Deathgasm but more serious. I want to do a movie like that. That'd be kind of cool. But anyways, that's all I got to say about that movie. It was fun. It wasn't as bad and painful as I thought. It's not a masterpiece by any means. It's worth a watch, on a Sunday afternoon if you're not doing anything else like I was. It's not as bad as you think as far as they get stuff right, they get stuff wrong. They get more stuff. Did they get more stuff right or wrong? What's the question? Well, let me think. It's not necessarily that they get stuff right or wrong. It's more like how they frame it some of the time that is kind of cringy. The scene of the classroom where he brings his amp and stuff, that's a terrible scene. I thought it was really dumb. Spoiler alert, of course. I just hated that scene a lot. I know other people that actually hated that scene too. It just was just annoying, But I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a teenager nowadays, but it seems like it's pretty similar. It's somewhat similar, honestly. Like ironically enough, like if this movie is any indication, But I mean, it's just like, I don't know. But like the tropes that are in the movie kind of warmed my heart a little bit, because like I feel like a lot of the way that a lot of people talk nowadays make it seem like, oh, everything's different, everything's all messed up, everything's crazy, and people are going nuts and all this stuff. But you watch this movie and you're like, if these tropes are to be believed as some kind of reflection of modern society, I'll just say that things haven't changed all that much. You still got these jocks that are trying to kick your ass, and you're still trying to get the girl if you're into that. You're still trying to play metal, and there's nothing wrong with that, and people still hate metal. And at least in this movie universe, people still hate, it's kind of cool, kind of neat. So, but that's all, and hopefully my next episode will have an interview. I was going to interview this band today, but they bowed out. I don't know what happened, but that's fine. Definitely be doing a lot more interviews, but I'll do more episodes like this too. And I will catch you all later.